This week, the world lost somebody of significant importance to my childhood, and I want to talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Never thought I'd be making this type of video so soon, but this week the world lost, if not the greatest professional wrestler in sports entertainment history. Talking about Hulk Hogan, aka Terry Bollea, had such an impact on all us 80s and 90s kids. You know, there's no words to describe what a lot of people are feeling. You know, my heart goes out to him and his family. This is definitely a very trying time, but Hulk Hogan, like most people, have had some form of impact on childhood, and I don't want to focus on all the negative stuff. I just want to focus on the positives, and I want to tell what he's done for me and my childhood, and maybe share two stories that I have that I feel, you know, I was kind of on the fence about making this video because, you know, it's not silly, but, you know, it does help to talk about things. And again, he had such a huge impact on my childhood, just like many others. And, you know, it's just something I hold near and dear to me because I grew up watching Hulk Hogan. I idolized Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was my childhood. Hulk Hogan, anything, you name it, I had it. Whether it was the LJN, whether it was the Hasbros, whether it was t-shirts, the bandanas, the foam fingers, you name it, I had it. My parents always ran out and got stuff for me. And again, it just, you know, the impact that he has on your childhood, even now as an adult. I mean, you know, I look at it when I look at this very similar to my dad. My dad was, if not the greatest Mickey Mantle fan of all time. And when Mickey Mantle passed away, you know, my dad was devastated because that was his childhood hero. That was his favorite persona or athlete or, you know, it was just his favorite person. It was who he idolized, you know, and that's what it was for me. This is what it's like for me with Hulk Hogan. I mean, it's just, it's unreal to think that, you know, he still had plenty of life to go and, you know, but unfortunately, you know, time remains undefeated. That's the best way I can put it. Time always remains undefeated. But enough of the sad stuff. I want to talk about some childhood anecdotes and why I feel the way I feel about Hulk Hogan. Now, obviously, growing up in the 80s era of professional wrestling, you know, Hulk Hogan made it mainstream, you know, with the Hulk Hogan's Rock and Roll Wrestling and the movies and everything, and it just the impact that he had. You know, I love telling this one story because think about it from a child's perspective. You're watching professional wrestling. You're watching WWF back in the day, as it was called, and all of a sudden, Hulk Hogan's doing an interview, and all of a sudden, Earthquake comes out of nowhere and just pummels Hulk Hogan, does the thing where he jumps on Hulk Hogan's chest, and he just takes him out. And, you know, I know now as an adult, I know that was a way to write Hulk Hogan off of TV so he can get some time off and he can heal up and everything. But back then as a kid, don't think for a hot second that you didn't think that was real. Come on, every kid thought it was real at one point. And I remember after that happened, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen, whatever. And then I don't remember if it was I think it was a Saturday episode of when they were airing Superstars, and Tugboat came on and was saying, hey, you know, if you guys want, send your letters to Hulk Hogan. Here's your address, here's his address, send it to him. And, you know, so I went, grabbed a box of crayons, piece of paper, wrote him a letter, gave it to my mom and dad. They dropped it off in the mail. And maybe a couple weeks later, maybe a month or two later, I actually got an autographed 8x10 back in the mail from Hulk Hogan. Now, if you're a kid, again, wrapping your mind around that, that has got to be the most amazing feeling in the world to get an autographed 8x10 sent back to you in the mail from Hulk Hogan. As a kid, that meant everything and anything to me. You know, it you know, again, you're following, saying your prayers, taking your all that stuff. And you get an 8x10 as a kid, and it just made you feel like you could do anything. And that feeling was such a great feeling, and that is such a core memory that I will hold on to for the rest of my life. And again, to an 9-year-old kid, think about it now as an adult back then, what just the little things like that do for people. And it was just such a great thing. And, you know, and again, I've always been a fan of Hulk Hogan, whether he was in WWF, WCW, when he came back to WWE, when he was in TNA. I mean, it was the greatest feeling in the world. Now, fast forwarding some odd years later, you know, that's when he leaves WWE. He goes on to his run in WCW with the NWO. And then he winds up coming back, fighting The Rock at WrestleMania 18. And then comes and goes back to the red and yellow, which was like the greatest thing ever. And he was going by Hollywood Hulk Hogan at the time, even when he was with the NWO and all that. But he was still going by Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So at that time, flash forwarding now to about 2002. Now, I found out that he was doing a book signing at a Walmart in Tampa. And this was his book, the Hollywood Hulk Hogan book. I bought this book when it came out, and I read it cover to cover. I thought it was such a great book. And for anyone that knows me personally, I'm not a big fan of reading. I just can never get into it. But I felt I had to read this. I had to know more about my hero. So me and a friend of mine took a 4-hour drive over to Tampa, stood in line for God knows how long to meet Hulk Hogan, and I couldn't believe it. Getting ready to meet my childhood hero, and I was so overwhelmed with such anxiety, because it's like, what do you do in that moment? What do you say to that person that you've been holding on to all this for all these years? What could you only got one shot. What could you possibly say to him? And as we inched ever so close to him, I was just thinking so in my thoughts, like, what can I say to him? So then going back to the story that I told about Earthquake. So I went ahead and I said, hey, it's such an honor to meet you. I'm such a huge fan. You're my hero. I know you hear it all the time, but I just got to tell you, when you were wrestling back at this time and Earthquake hurt you, and I mailed in a letter and you mailed back an autographed 8x10, I got to tell you, to a kid, that meant everything in the world. That to me meant anything I can do in this world is possible if I just try. And he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, brother, he goes, you don't know what that means to hear. I said, you don't understand. I've waited for this moment my entire life just to meet you and just tell you this for what you meant to me, to my childhood, even now as an adult. And at the time, he was signing everybody's book, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And he asked me for my book. He asked me what my name was. And inside the book, he wrote, to Seth, your number one fan, Hulkster. And you guys could see it right there. And I didn't even look at this until I got out of the store, because I was just at such a high that I got to meet my hero. And we were walking out of the store and my friend was like, I was like, oh, what did he sign in your book? And he said Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So then I opened up my book and I saw what he wrote and I just lost it. It was crazy to think that he wrote your number, like I'm your number one, like he was my number one fan. Like, Hulk Hogan was my #1 fan. I mean, like, what the hell? It was just the greatest moment, and he was so genuine and so kind, and he literally took as much time as he could to talk to everybody, and it just shows you the type of person he is and the type of character he had. And me and Dom were talking about this, not too long ago, and it sucks now because we were talking about the next time that he was going to be doing a sign-in at Hogan's Beach Shop, that me and him would go up there and go meet him, again, because all these childhood people, all these heroes and all these celebrities that we idolized growing up are now just falling off by the wayside. And I would have just loved to have met him one last time and just genuinely tell him, how I felt, and thank him for everything that he's done for the sport and mentally and personally for me. And again, from sending an 8x10 to an 8 or 9-year-old, to signing a 22-year-old's book, to fulfilling, something special to me. Here's the pic of me and Hogan that we took that day at Walmart. And it was just one of the greatest memories in the history of my life. So as you guys are watching this, it's a couple of days after the fact already. And I was on vacation when this happened, and I was devastated. But I will always have the book and this picture, and I will always hold it in a special place in my heart. Again, my condolences to his family. I know it's trying times for everybody, whether you've known him personally, professionally, or he's just had some sort of impact on your childhood, your life, in some way, shape, or form. I know everybody's hurting. I'm hurting too, but I just felt like I had to say this. I just had to do this to get this off of my chest. Maybe this is part of my grieving process and me being able to kind of move on from this, but I felt this was something that I needed to do. So Hogan, thank you so much for all the memories. Thank you for touching an 8 and 9-year-old. I forget how old even I was at the time, for doing that for me as a child, doing this for me as an adult. Your mark on the world of professional wrestling will always be there. That's why they call you the Immortal Hulk Hogan. And yeah, may you finally be at peace. And again, condolences to your family and everybody out there hurting. Time heals all wounds, but this is going to take some time. So, all right, guys, I'll see you on the next video.